Imagine a particle so elusive, so defiant of common sense, that it has never been seen alone. A particle that, if the laws of physics are correct, can never be seen alone. This is not the plot of a science fiction novel. This is the story of the quark, the building block of the universe that is sentenced to eternal imprisonment. We live in a world built of protons and neutrons. For decades, these were the elementary particles. But in the 1960s, a radical idea emerged: these particles weren't fundamental at all. They were made of something smaller, something with the whimsical name quark. Yet, as physicist Adriano Di Giacomo notes, despite an intense search for quarks that started immediately, after 40 years no quark has ever been found. This is the story of a particle that changed our understanding of reality, and the paradox of its permanent confinement. The story begins in 1961. The world of particle physics was in chaos. Scientists were discovering hundreds of new particles and accelerators, a zoo of hadrons, protons, neutrons, pions, kaons, and more. They needed order. Enter Murray Gell-Mann and Yuval Ne'eman. Independently, they proposed a classification scheme based on a mathematical symmetry called SU-3. It arranged particles into families, much like Mendeleev's periodic table of elements. This scheme, known as the Eightfold Way, was so elegant that it predicted particles yet to be discovered, including the omega-, found in 1964 exactly where predicted. But classification is not explanation. The question burned: why did these particles group this way? In 1964, the answer came from two men working independently, Murray Gell-Mann and George Zweig. They proposed that all these particles were composites, made of even smaller building blocks. Gell-Mann called them quarks, borrowing the word from James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake. Zweig called them aces. They were strange creatures. To make the math work, they had to possess properties no one had ever seen. First, they carried fractional electric charges, 1/3 or 2/3 the charge of an electron. Nothing in nature has such a charge. Second, they had 1/3 of a baryon number, another unheard of quantity. And third, they were, in theory, the fundamental building blocks of matter. The proton, for example, was composed of 2 up quarks and 1 down quark, U, D, the neutron, D, U. But the quark hypothesis raised 3 immediate, troubling questions. First, if quarks exist, where are they? Scientists searched frantically. They looked in cosmic rays. They searched deep underground. They designed Millikan oil drop experiments to detect fractional charges. Nothing. Not a single quark. The upper limit for free quarks in nature was set at an astonishingly small number, 1 quark for every 10 to the power of 27 nucleons. That's like searching for a single grain of sand in the entire Sahara Desert. Second, the charges were absurd. Fractional charges had never been observed. Many physicists dismissed quarks as just a mathematical trick, a useful fiction, not real particles. And third, the Pauli exclusion principle. This fundamental rule of quantum mechanics states that no two identical particles can occupy the same state. But when physicists built the quark model for certain particles, like the delta++ baryon, they ran into a problem. 3 identical up quarks seemed to occupy the same state, a clear violation of Pauli's principle. As one paper notes, this was a serious puzzle. As physicist J.I. Friedman later wrote, among the reasons physicists were skeptical were that free quarks had not been found, there was deep suspicion about the validity of their fractional charge assignments, and the model violated the Pauli exclusion principle. The solution to the Pauli puzzle was a stroke of genius. What if quarks carried another property, an unseen charge? Physicists proposed a new quantum number called color. Each quark could exist in one of 3 color states, red, green, or blue. The problem with the delta++ disappeared because the 3 up quarks could be different colors, satisfying Pauli's principle. But this solution created another mystery. Why couldn't we see color? The answer led to one of the most profound ideas in modern physics. Color-charged particles must always combine to form color-neutral objects. Quarks were forbidden from existing alone. In 1972, a new theory emerged, quantum chromodynamics, or QCD. It describes the strong force, the force that holds the nucleus together. The force between quarks is carried by particles called gluons. There are 8 types of gluons. But unlike photons, which carry electromagnetic force and don't interact with each other, gluons do interact with each other. This self-interaction changes everything. The result is a force that behaves like a rubber band. When quarks are close together, the force is weak, they can move almost freely. This is called asymptotic freedom. It explains why we can detect quarks inside protons when we smash particles together at very high energies. But when you try to pull quarks apart, the force increases. It becomes stronger the farther they separate, not weaker like gravity or electromagnetism. As physicist Andreas Kronfeld explains, a consequence of the self-coupling is that the force between quarks does not vanish at large distances, as the Coulomb force does, but becomes a constant. That constant is about 800 MeV per femtometer, equivalent to about 15,000 newtons of force. It would require a vast amount of energy to separate quarks. But here's the even more astonishing part: long before they reach macroscopic distances, the energy stored in the gluon field, the flux tube between them, becomes so great that it sparks into existence new quark-antiquark pairs. Instead of isolating a quark, you create new particles. The original quark remains forever bound to something else, and the energy of your attempt to free it manifests as entirely new matter. This is confinement. It's not merely difficult to find free quarks. It is, as physicist John Gribben described it, not merely difficult but actually impossible even in principle, to remove a quark from inside a proton. In 1977, Nature magazine called this a radical departure from the behavior of other more familiar composite systems. Today, we know there are 6 flavors of quarks: up, down, strange, charm, bottom, and top. Each has a corresponding antiquark. The up and down quarks are the lightest and most stable, making up protons and neutrons. The heavier quarks, strange, charm, bottom, and top, are unstable and only exist briefly in high-energy collisions. They were discovered over decades, each confirming the quark model's power. But even in these extreme collisions, they never appear alone. Quarks are always confined into composite particles called hadrons, baryons, 3 quarks, like protons, or mesons, a quark and an antiquark, like pions. Despite the overwhelming evidence for quarks, and the fact that no one seriously doubts QCD is correct, the mathematical proof of confinement remains one of the greatest unsolved problems in theoretical physics. As J. Greensight wrote in a review of the confinement problem, despite efforts stretching over 30 years, there exists no derivation of quark confinement starting from first principles, nor is there a totally convincing explanation of the effect. It is fair to say that no theory of quark confinement is generally accepted, and every proposal remains controversial. Several mechanisms have been proposed. Some suggest confinement is caused by center vortices, twisted configurations of the gluon field. Others favor abelian monopoles. Some theorists explore flux tube models, while others turn to lattice QCD simulations, massive computer calculations that solve the equations of QCD on a discrete grid. Lattice simulations have shown that the confinement/deconfinement transition can be studied through order parameters like the Polyakov loop. They've also revealed that below a certain critical temperature, quarks are always confined; above it, they enter a deconfined phase, called the Quark-Gluon Plasma, a state that existed in the first microseconds after the Big Bang. But what causes this transition? What is the underlying mechanism that forces quarks to bind? The answer remains elusive. As one paper noted, a first principles, analytical proof of color confinement remains one of the great unsolved problems in theoretical physics. The quark is the ultimate paradox, a particle that can only exist in relationships. It is defined by its bonds, not its freedom. The universe is built from particles that cannot stand alone. There is a profound poetry here. The fundamental building blocks of matter are forever entangled with each other. Isolation is not just difficult, it is impossible. Every quark that has ever existed, since the first microseconds after the Big Bang, has been part of a whole. They are the architects of our reality, but they remain forever hidden within it. We only know they exist because we can see their shadows, we can measure their influence, and we can predict their behavior with astonishing precision. But we can never look one in the eye. The mystery of quarks reminds us that the universe is stranger than we can imagine. It tells us that the most fundamental laws of physics are still being written, that the heart of matter conceals secrets that may take generations to unlock. Quarks exist. We know this with as much certainty as we know anything in science. And they can never exist alone. This is their beauty. This is their mystery. And this is the riddle that continues to drive physicists, armed with the most powerful tools ever built, to understand what really holds the universe together. Because in a world made of particles that can never be alone, the most fundamental question is, how does anything remain free? The particle that can never exist alone. The mystery of quarks. A story still unfolding.